So welcome to this tutorial. We're going to create a little intro to, I guess, ourselves, and just play a bit more with animating in 3D space. So let's start off by getting rid of the box that's there. And for this one, what we're going to do is we're going to create like a little Jetson-y type platform for our name or our text to come flying in on. So for a very basic one, I'm just going to create a circle, scale it out, face it. So in edit mode, I'll hit tab, and then I'll hit F for face, and then I'll change the side in 3D just to give it a bit of a stage. Now, if you want, you can manipulate this some more and maybe make it elongated, so it looks cool like that. Pretty neat. I didn't have everything selected, so that's why I got skewed. Let me try that again. And we'll go S. All right, let's see how that looks. Looks pretty good. Okay, so now we've got a little bit of a stage to start with. I'm gonna back my camera up and look at this thing straight on. And so we'll rotate, and if our camera is looking down on it, that might be okay. It's up to you. But peel out another camera view just to see kind of what we're looking at, and that looks pretty cool. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we're going to start with our name, and we'll put it in here. Now when you write your name, it's going to start as an object. If you don't tab and start each individual letter as a new one, it'll animate the whole name as one object. We want to animate each letter as one individual letter. So we're going to start by hitting add, and we'll go to text, and right away you end up in edit mode. So if you can see, the text is kind of lying down away from you. So I'll change to 3 view, and we'll go R. Sorry, I shouldn't say in edit mode. You end up in object mode. So then if I go to 1 and I hit tab, that puts me in edit mode. So I'll back up and I'll put in J for Joe. And then I hit tab, and you can move it where you want. And then you can add 2 more letters. I'll just do that really quickly. Go to 3, face it up, back to the front, tab, O, and 1 more. Text, and face it up. Back here, tab, backplace, E. Okay, so I got my first 3 letters, or the only 3 letters that I'm going to be using, and make sure they're lined up in both perspective, or both views, I should say, front and back, and that looks pretty good. Now, if I try to look at these from head on, they're okay. I can see them. They're kind of pale, but they do show up. But if I look at them from the side, I really don't see much because they don't have any 3D elements to it. So real quickly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab them all. I'm just going to bring them here. I got one of them a little bit tilted, and we can just make sure that that's straight. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to start to give them some depth. Okay. So if you click on the font tool, it's a new one over here. We can say that we want to extrude it. Okay, I'm going to switch to 3D view so I can see how fat my font gets. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to begin to extrude it, and I just change this value. And we can also add a bevel, which is just a little bit of a chamfer cut on the corners. So that's by doing offset. So I'll do that. I take that back. That's by doing depth of my bevel. There we go. Sorry. So the offset is 0. Okay, so if we take a peek at what that's going to look like from the front, it doesn't change much, but you can see now I have 3D text. Okay, so let's do the same for O. Bring it in here, and we'll quickly choose the F. Good. And we'll extrude it. Now, I should have took notice of what size I was doing. Let me quickly do that. I'm using 0.066, so I'll do the same for O. 0.066, good. And again, check your other settings. 0.017, so 0.017, and we're going to have the same offset, so they'll kind of all look alike. So this one was 0. And finally, okay, all in there. So I have some 3D text. Might be fun to make them different colors. Real quick, we'll make this one a blue, and we'll make this one red, and we'll make this one a yellow. And then we'll make our base green just to kind of vary it up, looking pretty primitive color type. Okay, so we zoomed out, take a quick picture, looking all right. We could make these all a little bit bigger. Let's just scale them out a bit just to give it some more drama. Okay, let's see. That looks looking pretty cool. Haven't played with lighting much before in these tutorials, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this light, I'm going to move it in front, and notice the difference from the previous render. Now I can see it, I get some shadows. It looks pretty cool. You can also change the light to things like a spotlight. If I use a spotlight, it can be directional instead of a lamp, which kind of shows on everything. And if we're going to do spotlight directional, see it's coming from the side. That's going to cast my shadow, so I'll get shadows not only sideways, but at the angle, at a bit of an oblique angle. So that looks pretty cool. Let's start with that. Okay. And I'm just going to do one last thing with my camera. I'm going to rotate it up and bring it down just so I get more of a perspective view. That's looking good. All right. So now we're ready to animate. So this is where I want my letters to all be at the end of my animation. So let's go with a 80 here, and at 80, so shift and right arrow is going to get me right to the end. I'm going to insert a keyframe for all of these. So it's going to be just lock rot for this one, just because we're going to do rotation and okay, rotation and location. So then that's where they're all going to end up. And maybe I should probably have done that here. At 65, we'll do the same again, just so that from 65 to 80, they stay in the exact same spot. So again, you always have to lock rot each one. You could select them all and do it at that. And I'm going to go ahead and add one to my camera as well. We'll leave everything else as is. Now let's start thinking about what's going to happen. Well, I want these guys to start off the screen and then come in. So what I'll do is I'll go to 0. I'll move them all to different locations. Once I get them kind of out of my view and I don't see them in my camera, I'm going to middle mouse click and drag. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. Do that again. Now hit R, then middle mouse click and drag. And what you'll do is you'll end up rotating him in 3D space. So now he's kind of spinning all different ways. Okay. Now if you lock rot it, I lock rot. Again, let's take this 0 and we'll bring him out. He's going to come through the floor. Again, rotate and drag. Rotate. Oops. Rotate and drag. Okay, and then I lock rot. Don't forget to lock rot. Also, just go back to your original space. Then bring him out here. Rotate. Try to bring him into a 3D space. Okay, so that's good. And whoop, almost forgot to lock rot him. All right, so here we go. So what's happening is pretty slowly our name's coming in and just hanging out there for 10 frames. Okay, so that's pretty cool. It's a good start. The next thing we can do is we can also animate our light. So our light here is going to have an energy of 100. So at frame 0, let's make our light start at 0. So it's going to be dark. So start at 0. I'm going to hit I here over the value, and it inserts a keyframe. I can see that because it turned yellow. You can also see it down here in my timeline as it turns yellow. And over about 10 or 15 frames, I'm going to have my light fade in. So I'll change the value to 1.5, 5. That makes it nice and bright. Okay, and I'll hit I and lock rot that as well. So now what's going to happen is as I come in, you can see the light start to fade in. Looks pretty good. And again, when we get to the end, we can do the opposite. We can fade it out. So at about 70, I'll hit I here, and that's lock rotted, and then fade to black as we get to 80, change the value down to 0, and I lock rot. Now, some of the cool things you can do is you could also change the color spectrum, just to set different keyframes, and you can change the color values as they go, but we're not going to do that for now. Our movie's pretty good. Let's build some drama. So back to the first frame, and we'll select the camera this time. We'll go up to 7, and I want my camera to start almost around the back. So I'll go here, and I'll face it to the back. Okay, so it's looking at the back of the thing, and I'm going to hit I for lock rot. Okay, and then maybe at about 25, 30, okay, it's already spinning on its own. I'm going to G it over here, so make sure it can still kind of see what's going on. I'll hit I lock rot, and we'll continue around, and I can see he's coming around to the front of the screen. Must have lock rotted it inadvertently earlier. And here's where it's going to end up. Oh, it's already got a lock rot. And then I'm going to continue on a bit, but now let's zoom in just for fun as we fade to black. It looks like our camera is kind of zooming in. Go to 3, bring it back down so that it looks like. And we're going to have it go right through the O. I lock rot, and we'll bring it ahead a bit, and let's see if we can make it come through the O. I lock rot, and by about now it's dark anyway, so we won't really see what happens. And we'll just G it right through the 0. I lock rot. Okay, so here we go. Let's take a quick peek at what's kind of happening in our window. Alt A. Whoa! Zoom, zoom, boom. Woo! Okay, that was pretty cool. The sound effects are amazing. All right, so just to show you kind of as we get into it what this is going to look like just about before it's done. Look at everything's kind of moving all in different directions. Oh, that's cool. As we go forward, F12. Oh, it's even cooler. That O's coming out of the soup. And then one more time. Oh, man. This is like the best intro I've ever seen. Okay, so have fun with it. Maybe you have a different title, but have some fun animating some different things. You could have this thing flip in too, if that excites you. But anyway, I hope to see something pretty creative and exciting. Take care.